And to start us off, I'd just like to provide a few updates on CO from USCCB and then also from CORE. Um, so from USCCB, I just wanted to give everybody a heads up to start thinking about reviewing their CO policies or plans. I know that there's some overlap between AAP, accountability for affected populations, and I'm currently asking for those plans right now. So we're going to give you a little break. Just major heads up, I'll probably ask for some CO plans and policies the end of July. And I'll reach out via email for those. We are also maybe a little bit bigger of a change, an exciting change. We're looking at collecting more data from MRIS. So on the RMP period report, we'll be adding some more questions regarding CO. We'd like to be able to sort and query assessment scores from your individual clients. And look at the correlation between sites, population, age, different CO mechanism. So at a member level, we'll be adding questions such as, did an individual receive CO? Yes or no, and if no, why? A place for you to put their overall assessment score, and a place for you to indicate which CO mechanism was used, whether that was on site in a classroom setting or remote virtual CO, group CO, individual CO, perhaps through a home visit. So there'll be those options for you in a drop down or radio button form for you to select. This should be done in the next few weeks, but we'll use the rest of this fiscal year to kind of troubleshoot and test things. So our hope is that in fiscal year 2021, we can just start fresh October 1 and gather that data and get a whole year's worth of data and see what kind of statistics we can get from that. We do understand too that oftentimes the person that is doing the RMP reports might not necessarily be you all. So if you want to give that individual a heads up that these questions are going to be added, I'd encourage you to do that. We'll also send out some guidance and a heads up in the resettlement connection that goes out. Any questions on those updates? Okay. So then as far as CORE updates go, CORE is in the process of developing a FACT for RSC CO providers on COVID-19 impacts on resettlement in the US. So they gathered domestic feedback, so thank you all for who provided input for the questions that I had sent around. Those resources are currently being vetted by PRM, and that will kind of act as a living document as policies change on the domestic side. So stay tuned for information as those resources come out. We'll also send those out via MRS or the Resettlement Connection. CORE is also working with the CDC and IOM to streamline health messaging that is coming out. So this is looking at the messaging that's hitting pre-arrival, pre-departure, and post-arrival touch points. And we just want to make sure that the individuals at these touch points are communicating the same information. Their hope is to have this in place before arrivals really start to resume. So hopefully that will be out fairly soon. They are also looking at addressing the topic of social unrest. Again, for all of those that did provide input on the questions that CORE had surrounding race in the US and the riots, the protests that have been taking place, I do appreciate you taking the time to provide feedback on that. CORE is currently talking to PRM about what can be produced. In the past, they had developed a draft on diversity and tolerance in America, and then that was kind of tabled. So they're revisiting, possibly revising or editing that document, or perhaps creating a new one with all of the feedback that you provided. At the very least, they know that they will be able to develop a one-pager on what to do if you encounter the police and their hope is to also develop a supplemental video for that information. They've also collected great field examples from all of the resettlement agencies on best practices in addressing COVID. So they'll be finding ways to share those best practices with the network through upcoming learning circles and knowledge exchanges. They're also looking to engage a subject matter expert on diversity and tolerance specific to CO. So their hope is to have another online practicum on those topics. So stay tuned for more information on that. We're kind of looking at August, I believe, for those virtual practicums or knowledge exchanges to roll out. And finally, if you recall on our last CO call, we talked about the 6 action items that were discussed at the CO leaders meeting that took place in December. One of those major activities was a review of the objectives and indicators. Since that time, that activity has taken priority, and a working group has been formed. We've had 3 meetings thus far. It's a slow process. Our goal is not to overhaul the objectives and indicators, but rather provide input to PRM, see if anything's outdated or anything needs to be added. Again, the major outdated part that we kind of see is the lack of digital literacy that is within those objectives and indicators. But if you have any feedback on those O's and I's, please send me an email. I'll be happy to relay that to the working group. Similarly, CORE is looking at starting that activity bank. They're thinking that might be launched at summer's end. Right now, it's not going to include activities that hit all of those objectives and indicators. They're focusing on remote CO activities at this time. So activities that will help you conduct remote CO or virtual CO. That's what we're looking for. So if you have activities that have been working well for you, please also send them my way, and I will forward them to CORE if you think that they would be worthy of sharing with the network and adding to this activity bank. The other items that were on that action list are kind of taking a lower priority. That was a photo bank, collecting rubrics and resources and methods for observing and monitoring CO, expanding the communications pilot, and reviewing the model assessment. So those things are kind of taking a back burner until we really address the objectives and indicators. Any questions on those updates? Okay. So with that, I don't have a PowerPoint today. I just thought we'd have a more open, informal discussion about some of the issues that are currently affecting our jobs. And I know you might be talking about this ad nauseum at this point, but I thought this would be a nice time for us to maybe share some activities or resources that have really helped each of our sites, and maybe we can just pass some tips along to one another. And troubleshoot in any areas that we might be having challenges. So first off, if we could just talk a little bit about COVID-19. In general, how are your clients handling the pandemic and quarantine? Are you getting any common questions or concerns?
This is Jennifer in Sacramento. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. I'm on a weird set of headsets. Sorry. You know, our clients haven't had majority of our clients are from Afghanistan SFEs. And we haven't had a lot of concerns regarding their own personal protection equipment, like masks and things like that. Everyone's got that pretty well down. Where we have seen that we've been able to be quite a bit of help is with things like remote school enrollment for our newer clients that arrived right as school shut down, and then doing a lot of helping with the process of how do I get that free Chromebook or laptop from my child's school so that they can engage in school at home. So it's really been more along the lines of practical day-to-day life that we've been needing to assist with, rather than any fears or concerns related to the virus itself.
Okay. I see a comment from Jimmy here that says that they have many clients who would like to start working, but they're afraid to start working. They're afraid of catching the virus. Anybody with similar issues?
Hi, this is Abdulaziz from Catholic Churches of Arlington, Migration and Refugee Services. We have had a similar problem with clients, addressing some challenges due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And one of those challenges was like, how can we get information about what the COVID-19 is? So luckily we have a lot of staff in MRIS that speak different languages, so we were able to translate some of the materials that some kind of information explain about how to protect yourself from COVID-19, what are the symptoms of COVID-19, and also where to get help. So we translated that into mostly Dari and Pashto, since our clients are majority SIVs from Afghanistan too. Another challenge we had was that how clients will get access to ESLs, and luckily here in Manassas and Arlington, we have a sister agency, OGAR, Immigration Services. They provide online ESL classes. So we were able also to distribute Chromebooks and laptops to clients. We also have had issues saying that they lost their jobs and they were not able to pay their bills, or they don't have food for their families because they were not eligible for the food stamp in the beginning. And now that they lost their income, but they applied the benefits, food stamp benefits, they needed some help before their cases, food stamp cases, were approved. So we reached out to the cities, the counties around here and the cities, and we were able to secure some grants. And through those grants, we were able to, and thanks also to USCCB, we were able to help some people with rent, and others also we were able to distribute food to families in the counties in the area. More than almost, for the last food distribution that we have done, almost 250 people get dry food from us. So these are the challenges that we have had since the pandemic started, and we're still trying to adjust, the needs of our families. But I still would like to hear if there are similar challenges with the, refugee families in other states, and what was the solution for that.
Thanks. Are other sites dealing with similar challenges?
Hi, this is Jimmy from Catholic Charities Atlanta. Yeah, ESL have been one of our biggest issues. So luckily, most of our clients have kids that go to school, so they were given Chromebooks by the school, and we've been helping them go access like ESL learning sites or go to YouTube to make it easier for them to take ESL class, watch some ESL lessons through YouTube and whatnot. And I just read the question and about Social Security card. Yeah, we've been having a lot of issues. We had families that came right before the pandemic hit in Georgia, went into lockdown. And we just recently had another client, and all of them, about 10 people, have not able to gotten their Social Security yet due to that.
Hi, this is Alice with Catholic Charities Fort Worth. Yeah, I think our biggest problem has been the Social Security office because it's closed. Food stamp, we don't have a problem. In fact, they're able to give all we had two families that came right before the shutdown, and they were able to give them SNAP benefit, both SNAP and Medicaid, without the Social Security receipt. And we had an arrival just last week, and they were able to get their SNAP benefits. The biggest problem is the Social Security office. So we are not able to apply for employment for these clients. And then the other problem we've had, which is unique, is that a few clients that got the COVID, their community is shunning them. So they're very lonely, and we're having to put them through counseling. And even this counseling is done via Doxy and me. It's not in person, and that is really stressful for clients who already had trauma. Other than that, our agency is big, so we had a lot of financial support and also from the community. So financially, the clients really are not struggling with rental assistance and utilities and all that. We have enough community resources to help them with that.
Great, thanks. Is anybody else dealing with clients who have had the virus and are being shunned by their community members?
Hi, it's Jimmy again. Down here in Atlanta, we have not had that issue. Some of our members of our Catholic Charities team are part of the Burmese community or the Somali community, and they help form groups that will help take care of clients who had COVID-19. Like if a client have COVID-19 and they're Burmese, we'll refer them to this group of Burmese community members where they'll go out and buy the groceries for them, get them their medicines that they needed, and help out in any way they can. That is really shocking to hear.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they did. This is Alice again. They did support them with getting those things, but they're afraid to be near them even after they are well and the doctor says they're okay. So they're afraid to be with them for fear of getting it themselves. But they did support them in doing the grocery. In fact, one was a single mom and her kids moved out and they were staying with other community members during her time of quarantine. So it's just the fear of catching it from her even after she's recovered, and she's been very lonely.
Hi, this is Kitty from Catholic Charities in Phoenix. Can I be heard? Hello?
We can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we have not had that experience as far as, client being shunned from the community. We have had clients that have been exposed already. We actually have one that passed away during the week because of COVID. The community and other agencies, we have a task force that we meet once a week, and this includes all the CBOs that work, the health department, and everyone that works together. We meet on a bi-weekly basis, and we have other agencies that also have clients within the other apartment units working together to make sure that families are being given the proper guidance and to continue guidance. We do provide, we are getting food boxes once a week from American farmers, and they, what we do is we make sure that families that actually are in quarantine that tested positive do not need to leave the home. We will provide everything that's necessary for them to avoid them being outside exposed. That includes grocery shopping, that would include getting them anything that they need to make sure that they and their families are also secure. There are families like any other family that if they do get sick, they don't want the other community members to find out, not to get shunned. But it's very rare that it's happening to my knowledge here in Phoenix.
Are there any other sites that maybe have some suggestions as far as providing online counseling when such things can't be done in person?
This is Kitty again from Phoenix. We do have mental health specialists. We have counseling, and only as needed will they go into the home or take the person to get an assessment. But so far, they've been doing a lot via FaceTime or Zoom. We do have Welcome to America. They are providing and visiting families that do not have computers and updating it. So at least the families can have computers, and a lot of stuff could be done via virtual, Zooming or FaceTime, to make sure that families are okay and they're getting the mental health services they need at this time.
Did see a comment from Elizabeth here regarding the contact with the school system, and one of the biggest issues being technical help, specifically around Chromebooks. I did want to let all of you know that our USCCB oversees the Texas RSIG program, and they've been working with the school districts there to develop some one-page guides on Chromebook usage. I believe they translated that into the various languages, so I can send those around if you all think that would be helpful. Great. Okay. Have you had any difficulties keeping your clients informed, or about how often are you checking in with your clients? Or similarly, are you taking any additional steps teaching them about hygiene, or do you have any particularly good resources you'd like to share with the group?
This is Alice with Catholic Charities Fort Worth. Yeah, one of the things we've done in Catholic Charities Fort Worth is to try and contact our clients at least weekly. So the case managers are calling them weekly and calling even community members, like for example, the local pastors and the apartment complex, and asking them to just go near the apartments and talk to the clients so that we can keep them engaged, because we all know there's some clients who prefer the face-to-face interaction, and when they don't get it over 1 month, 2 months, they become disengaged. So we're trying our very best, and since Texas is opening up a little bit, we have a few case managers now trying to go to the clients' places, of course, with masks and practicing social distancing, and trying to knock on the doors of those that they haven't heard from within a week or two to find out how they're doing. But yeah, it takes a lot more time, and some clients, based on their work schedule, especially those that are still working, it's really hard to keep them engaged.
This is Katie again from Phoenix. We're in constant contact with all the families, especially because of unemployment. Almost every day we're in contact with families that have been employed, families that are pending employment. So it's almost every case manager has a full caseload when it comes to responding to the phones. So I could say that basically, here in our agency, almost everyone is in contact on a daily basis with a client due to unemployment questions. And also we have very good support with the state. Besides what USCCB is also sending us call regarding language interpretation and flyers. So every day we have updated flyers regarding how to protect yourself on a daily basis, not to let your guard down. And as you're hearing in the news, Arizona is becoming a very hot spot. So we are making sure that every family keeps updated when it comes to precautions with COVID.
Just added some resources. I know I've sent these around before, and you've probably seen them on multiple listservs, or if you're signed up for CORE's listserv, you've gotten these. but again, just some resources that CORE has put out regarding COVID and some information that you could provide for your clients, and then also information on how to help your clients cope with the virus, and then also yourselves and your staff. Okay. I also had some questions. I know obviously we're all doing remote CO here. So are there any other platforms besides Zoom, WhatsApp that you've been using that have been working well?
Hi, this is Zori from Catholic Social Services in Alaska. I just wanted to share that, well, right at the beginning of when everything happened, we sent out letters to every client of how to take care of yourself, how to care for your family in their native language. We mailed those out right away. And then we also worked with our municipality here. Our municipality did weekly video updates for what is happening. And so we worked with them in translating them and making YouTube videos in different languages that we have in our city.
With providing remote CO, are you finding a lot of challenges with digital literacy, and what sort of workarounds have you been utilizing to help with that issue?
Down here in Atlanta, we have been doing CO over the phone, but every time we finish up with any CO, we'll text the client a link to a podcast or YouTube videos that kind of reinforce everything we talk about. So they have something audio to listen to make it a lot easier for them. We also still give them, like, we'll mail them like the package, welcome to your home, in their native language, but not everybody is literate in their family, even in their native tongue. So we'll send like YouTube videos, podcasts from the CORE website and everything like that.
Great.
This is Jennifer in Sacramento. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. This is just Janet with the Rockford office, and I apologize. Simeon Mirach is on the line, but she's our COA provider, so she was going to get to you. She's still trying to log in, having some technical issues. So, however, what we are using here, I'll try to generalize. Back, she'll get in. We are using the WhatsApp app with our most recent clients because most of them are familiar with that. So we have purchased the phones, installed that app, so that's how this communication is actually going with the one who are the newest one, the one who have arrived in March and, February and March, and, the ones who are after on. So yes, it has been challenging in general with everything what everybody have mentioned, before. We did have, of course, delays because of, impact and a lot of offices being closed, Social Security Administration, issues with. But fortunately, we were able, not within the time required, but within this 90-day period survey. It is, but orientation is ongoing. We are doing, Viber and school. We have enrolled the schools just recently. The possibility for close actually until the end of the May. So we were able to enroll the March arrivals for this year. Hopefully summer school, will be held in some virtual way. So they're all enrolled. And that's pretty much what I have. And will be able to join us in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet.
Yeah, this is Jennifer in Sacramento. We're also using WhatsApp. We found that's the application that our clients are most familiar with and most comfortable using. We're doing video calls with WhatsApp. We also do a door drop of a materials packet that's similar to what we were using for handouts in our on-site classes. However, I've enhanced those with additional handouts or visual aids that we can reference and look at together through our lesson, and adapted some activities that we would have done in class into activities on paper using a lot of visuals so that we can try to keep some interactive elements with it continuing.
Great. That was my next question, is how are you keeping virtual remote CO engaging with your clients? Cora was actually wondering when talking about engaging families, if anybody is having any issues getting female family members to speak up if you are conducting family CO or group CO, or if you're having any issues reaching more elderly clients.
This is Jennifer again. I've actually was surprised to find that with our clients, our women were more likely to speak up over telephonic or video CO. I don't know if it's that being in the comfort of their own home with their own family versus with other strangers. There is a gender, consideration with our primary population here as well. So I found that the women were more interactive. I mean, like most of us, I think I do also make a concerted effort to, from the time we start talking about CO and continuing through having it, just reinforcing that cultural orientation is for all adults. All adults are expected to attend and participate. And then I don't try to put anyone on the spot, but I do try to prepare everyone. Hey, I'm going to be asking each of you your ideas or thoughts on this question because it may be different for all of us, And so that way they can be thinking about it. And then I give each adult or request each adult to share their thoughts or their comments to try to keep particularly our women involved.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Ernestine.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
So I teach cultural orientation in the phone. So so I'm Ernestine from Catholic Social Service, Miami Valley, Dayton, Ohio. So I teach cultural orientation via cell phone. They also use native language, Swahili or Kinyarwanda, Kinyamurenge. So, and it is easy for me just because you can talk. I can ask them any question they have, for example, for COVID-19. And also, I will have like a video call to see if everybody is engaged to just to learn. And then after that, I allow them to ask any question they have. So sometimes I found that some of them, they have a problem to say that they don't want to wear mask because no more COVID-19. And then I tried to teach them how they can use it because COVID is still there. And then they ask me many questions, and after that, I try to help them, and so they are happy, and nothing. There is no more problem. Just the problem is just to wear mask to protect themselves. They have a mask, but they don't want to wear it. Yeah. And then after that, I have a question to ask about, because sometimes they don't want to wear a mask, and they want to go to work in the company. So sometimes like will be like a problem for them if they don't want to wear mask and they want to go to work, or they want to go to study ESL, to study English as second language. So how can we help them about that?
Mhm.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, we heard you.
How can we help the clients? We teach them how to protect themselves, but they sometimes they say, no, no more COVID, no more coronavirus. We cannot just cover our face. So how can we help them?
Sure. Let's give everybody a minute if they have some suggestions. I believe a resource was just sent around today too from the CDC. I'm trying to find that.
This is Jimmy again from Atlanta. One thing we talk to our clients about, that even those who want to go back to work, saying that this is now a workplace requirement. So if you wish to start working again, we have to explain that most companies now are requiring them to wear masks to get them to understand that way.
Okay, thank you.
Once I find that resource that I just got this morning, I will send that around to everybody as well in a follow-up email. They were, it was like a visual one-pager that kind of provided some visuals on how to wear a mask, and then why it's still important, and as Jimmy said, why it would be mandatory in some locations.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Is anybody dealing with any confidentiality issues as far as remote CO? If you're doing group remote CO, do you have any issues or any guidance if clients have personal questions that they might not want addressed in a group setting?
No, there is no problem about confidentiality, because we teach one family.
One family.
So now we are teaching one family, so there is no problem about any privacy or anything like that. Yeah.
So it looks like a lot of our affiliates here might be doing one family at a time. Are any of you doing group CO that encompasses more than one family?
So right now, because we are not working at the office, we use just one family, because they will be together by using the cell phone they have at home. But before, we used to work when we were at the office, we have like a group of people, and they didn't have any question which can be confidentiality. No, there's no problem about that. Yeah, actually they trust us and we trust them. There's no problem.
This is Alice with Catholic Charities Fort Worth. One of the things we do, although we're doing it for families now currently, is we always try to talk to the adults in the family also individually, because we've realized, for example, I don't know about most of you, but with our Afghani clients, the men tend to dominate and do all the talking and all the responding, and when the ladies most of the time hardly get to say anything. So we try to reach out to them also separately, though we do it as a family for main things, but we also spend some time with each adult individual.
How are assessments going for everybody? Are you still able to provide each adult with an assessment, or is this something that many of you are going to have to follow up on when things open up a bit more? What is that looking like for everybody?
In Atlanta, when I do it over the phone, I will ask the other adults to leave the room, and I try to do it one-on-one. Mm-hmm. But I already know that once we can open back up, I will have to do a follow-up and see, maybe do a second test or second assessment with everybody else again.
Okay, this is Janet with Rockford. Okay, here we are able to complete assessment pretty much on the time. Of course, we are doing them verbally with, using the WhatsApp services. Now, after each orientation topic, we do provide that survey, how much they understand based on the topic, and they take a picture and send. Okay, as evaluate this, then we see which client needs little more, and then we do one-on-one orientation again on the topics which are not, so at the point of 90 days closer to the closure, we are able to complete the assessment virtually, of course.
Great.
This is Nina in Phoenix. Many of our cases that came in have been singles. So when I have had to do a family, I've again just asked them to leave the room, hoping that they're, doing it on their own. But since I breaks the CO topics into about 3 sessions over the phone, at the beginning of the next session, I'll use some of the assessment questions as like a review of the previous session, so that not only am I like getting them engaged from what we talked about, a few weeks prior, but I'm also getting the assessment completed little by little instead of needing to get it all done, maybe in its own separate session.
Great, that's a great idea. Okay. Are there any sort of overall lessons learned from the past 3 months that might affect CO moving forward? I've heard from some folks that virtual sessions are actually going really, really well, and they're thinking about keeping them, perhaps maybe not for the CO that happens in the first 90 days, but maybe extended CO would still be done on a virtual platform because it helps alleviate the challenges of childcare issues or work schedules. Has anybody kind of thought about long-term changes?
I think once we have the option and it's safe to do so, our default would be to do in-person CO. However, this has presented itself as a new plan B for certain situations, like you mentioned. On the rare occasion that we have someone who's just within our 100-mile radius, that would make it, a couple hours to get to them and back. This would be a good option for them. Some people who have health concerns and maybe it's a little taxing for them between the transportation, sitting in the classroom and back, this could be another option, as well as people with challenging schedules with work or schooling. So yeah, we're seeing this as a new possibility that we hadn't really looked into in the past for those situations.
Great.
Yeah, when things hopefully get back to normal, we'll try to do more face-to-face because we feel like it's the best way. But down here in Atlanta, we're going to start like incorporating a lot more of the videos into it, a lot more of the podcasts into our COs. So instead of us just constantly lecturing, but this is something we're looking into because we have clients who will live far away from us. So instead of like going all the way out there, we can try to start doing over the phone CO or at least Zoom CO too, to help people who live far away.
Great. Okay, we have a question here from Elizabeth. How have others navigated remote CO and translation or interpretation? Any challenges there?
Down here in Atlanta, we have made it a lot easier to get interpreter over the phones, because back then we have to get up to sign like the invoice and everything, but now we can do email a signature for the invoice to make it a lot more simpler for us. Or even they can take a picture of their signature and we can use that for their invoice.
Yeah, this is Alice with Catholic Charities Fort Worth. We use over the phone interpretation. And Catholic Charities actually has the translation and interpretation network. So we just request and they're able to email the invoices, and we have over the phone interpretation, and you can even get video interpretation if you need.
Hi, this is Ernestine. So, I don't have any problem about interpreter because I speak most of their language. Many clients we have they're from Africa. They speak Kinyarwanda, Kinyamulenge, Swahili, and I speak all this language. So there is no problem about that. Yeah, thank you.
I do want to leave some time here to also talk about social unrest that's been happening and how that may be affecting some questions that clients may have during your CO sessions. So in general, have you been getting any questions around what's been happening across the US or what's been in the news as far as US race relations, the protests that have been happening?
This is Alice with Catholic Charities for 12. Yes, we have. We have clients, especially African families with teenage children. They've been pretty concerned, and it's like a re-traumatization for them because they feel like they already went through so much trauma and moved here, and seeing that on TV over and over again reminded them. And then it's not ending, it's one after another, and it's terrible. It's really hard for us to try and deal with it, not to mention that even us as staff members, we have the same concerns. So it's not been easy, but we've been trying to do the best we can. And as an agency, they've asked us to direct the calls for staff through HR, and if staff have questions from the clients, they can also channel them and get help processing on the best way to respond, because really there's no one specific way to respond. But it is a big concern, and clients are asking about it. Yeah.
Are any of your programs addressing the issue of racism or racial equity? Are you talking about the history of race in the U.S. in your CO sessions, or using any particular resources to help describe how we've gotten to this point, or U.S. history?
Yeah, this is Jimmy from Atlanta again. I just recently did a CEO on Monday, and it was my first CEO since the civil unrest. Mm-hmm. And the client had some question about it, and I tried to explain everything through the history of slavery to the Jim Crow era to modern day, up to the try to give her the abridged version up to the modern day, and explain that to look at from different angles, from why are people upset to the point where there might be rioting or protesting, to why are people scared of the protests and everything, trying to give her every possible information I could.
Great. On my end, as a member of the Objectives and Indicator Working Group, I'm sure we have our next meeting tomorrow, actually, and I'm sure this will be kind of a topic that we'll want to remember in some of the U.S. laws section to kind of make sure that we're really addressing this as well moving forward. I did see some answers when all of you provided some input to what CORE had asked, that some of you were looking at training on conflict resolution and just the different methods of voicing grievances or unhappiness in your community. how to be a good community member and kind of working some of these topics in that way?
Yeah, this is Alice again in Fort Worth. One of the other things we've emphasized is we have to start with ourselves. Everyone has to start with themselves, holding themselves accountable in the way they treat and see other people, and then holding others accountable and talking about it in our homes, seeing that everyone is equal and they have to be treated with dignity and respect. And I think when you come from that kind of framework, then it's much easier not to want to stereotype and judge everyone and be afraid of people because of the color of their skin. So we have to tell the truth, but we have to be accountable, and we have to start with ourselves. So that's why we at Fort Worth Catholic Charities, we would like to see something for CO related that comes from core, and you can address through PRM where possible, so that they can tell refugees before they come here, because most of them have only what they see on movies or they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we want to tell the truth, and we want people to see others as valuable, and being different is a good thing.
We have similar conversations and a need for those conversations here in Sacramento as well. Sacramento is a very diverse and integrated city. And so one of the things that we talk about in cultural orientation is about the diversity of the community, the way we try to celebrate it here. And we also talk about that in order for you and your family to have a happy, peaceful life here in Sacramento, it's important for you to be open and accepting of people and their differences. We do find the same issues that people come with concerns or even fears of other ethnicities or cultures based on things that they've seen in media, which, you know, who's to blame for what's coming out of the United States and how we characterize individuals, but it's not helping us process. And you know, when they move here, a lot of times they have neighbors who are African American or other ethnicities, and on times they've expressed a concern about that. So we try to ask very open-ended questions. Why does it concern you? Or why are you worried about having neighbors who are African American? What makes you think that or feel that way? What experiences did you have that caused you to think that? 9 times out of 10, it has to do with something they saw in movies or media. And so then we have that open-ended conversation about, you know, our experiences in real life are much more telling and important, and kind of move from there and have that conversation. But we're certainly looking for opportunities to improve and have more resources available on this topic.
Great.
And to add on that, it's also true because a few years back, it was when they saw a lady in a hijab, I remember walking with some of my clients during about 2 years ago, a Syrian client, and the apartment adjacent to them wanted to be moved because apparently they said they were living next door to terrorists. Terrorists had moved in the apartment complex. And so it's really based on media and what's depicted, but it has nothing to do with the truth. So I think it would really be helpful if that was addressed both in CO overseas and included here with more emphasis here, so that people are more open-minded, because it's not the truth. It's just based on media and their own preconceived notions, which are not accurate.
Okay. That's great feedback, and I'll give that to CORE as well to think about, because we often think that our clients are going to be the ones that are continuing to be victimized, and we don't think that they have their own preconceived notions as well.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I do during my cultural orientations, when I talk about how here in the United States, everybody's considered equal, nobody is above or below anyone else. And I always put it in this perspective as many refugees left their country because they were being prosecuted or being judged for who they are. why would you come here to the United States and continue to prosecute or judge others when you just try to run away from that?
Mhm.
This is Kitty from Phoenix. Some topics that I had with some clients about discrimination. Usually, I always give them my personal experience so they could know that any one of us, regardless, could be discriminated. I am a U.S. citizen. However, I am a Puerto Rican. People stereotype Latinos from all over the place. So usually I tell them, yes, I've been discriminated by the fact, not so much by my looks, but the fact that I speak Spanish, and how I handle that being an American in the US. And that will also help them ease that they're not the only ones discriminated, but this person that is helping them also in this, as a supervisor, as a case manager, how I cope with that. It also helps them see that, life will go on, you will have a good life, but how we deal with, racism also will be part of the life that you're going to live here in the US.
I did drop another link in the chat box. CORE just sent out that link. They are starting a page on resources around this topic, as back in the beginning of the session when I mentioned some of the resources that they're developing, they'll be adding them to this page. So do check back and save the link somewhere that's handy for you all. But as they post new resources, if you're not subscribed to their listserv, I encourage you to subscribe directly to them. But I will forward you anything that comes directly to me.
Can I add one more thing that I think is important as we talk to our clients about diversity? During different seasons, it's going to be a different community. For example, like I mentioned, in 2017, it was any person wearing a hijab was looking like a Muslim, you're seen as a terrorist. Then not too long ago, is about a year or so ago, it was anyone who is Hispanic and coming across the border. Our Cubans, Haitian clients, they're vilified as bringing in drugs and all that. Now, it's always been also that the African Americans are seen as not law abiding. So I think it's also important that we tell our clients we have to support each other, not to side with the image they would like to give us. And one of the perfect things that I have seen is, for example, with our refugee children, when they're doing tutoring in their ESL classes, it looks like a little United Nations right there. So we like to take that opportunity and remind them, you've all come from different parts of the world, but you're the same, and you all have value and worth, and don't let someone judge your neighbor because they don't know them. You just got here. Judge people based on their character, not the color of their skin or their national origin or the language they speak. And if we do that as case managers and not keeping quiet because it's not your race or your people that are being affected at that time, then it's wrong. We have to learn to advocate for each other and for everyone all the time, consistently. And that's why I said we have to be accountable ourselves and expect accountability from others. You can tell this is very important to me because I'm not a refugee, but I am an immigrant, and I work with refugees, and I have my children and I have my son, and I had to have that conversation with him. He's an African American because I'm Black, and he's here. And can you imagine someone seeing my son as being a threat just because of the color of his skin? So we have to come from a place of wanting the same for every child. No one, regardless, should be treated differently, and it has to start with us.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. And I know we could talk about this for another hour, another 2 hours. If we had more time, I'd love to delve into not only how are we assisting our adult clients in understanding this issue, but then how do we help them if they do have school age kids or children? How do we help them explain it to their children? So just some things to think about. If you develop or think of any resources on any of these topics that have been working for you in your sites, please share them with me. I'd be happy to send them around to the entire network so we can help each other navigate these issues. We are at the 4 o'clock mark here, so I don't want to keep anybody in case you all have other meetings to get to or work to get to. But our upcoming COP call, the next one will take place September 16th. So you can mark your calendars for that. And if you have any ideas of what you'd like to discuss for that meeting, we'll see what else comes out in the news in the next 2 months. Hopefully nothing more challenging than what we've already been dealing with. But if you have other ideas of what you'd like to talk about come September, please shoot them my way too. And with that, I'll thank you all for your participation. I really appreciate it. We had a great turnout today. So thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.